Gordon MacRae was the golden boy of Hollywood's classic musicals, radiating a clean-cut image of strength and fatherly warmth. He appeared to lead a perfect life with a beautiful family and a legendary career. But behind the scenes, a dark secret was slowly destroying everything he built. For 3 decades, the star of Oklahoma struggled with a hidden reality that stayed out of the tabloids until the very end. The truth of Chapter 1 reveals why his secret remained buried. But what was the first sign that the perfect leading man was living a lie? Gordon MacRae possessed a baritone voice that defined an era of cinema, making him the ultimate symbol of mid-century American wholesomeness. In the early 1950s, he wasn't just a singer. He was the personification of the American dream. While audiences saw a man who had it all: fame, a loving marriage to Sheila MacRae, and 4 children, the reality was far more complex. According to studio archives from Warner Brothers, MacRae was often viewed as the most reliable man on the lot, yet this reliability was a mask carefully maintained through sheer willpower. This chapter explores his rapid rise to stardom and the immense pressure to maintain an impeccable reputation in the public eye. During the filming of Oklahoma, MacRae was expected to be the rugged, healthy hero, Curly McLean. He looked the part perfectly, but even as he dominated the box office, small cracks began to appear in his professional discipline. Which of Gordon's classic films is your personal favorite? And did you ever sense something was wrong? Share your thoughts in the comments, as many fans are only now looking back with fresh eyes. What people didn't realize at the time was that MacRae was already deep into a routine of concealment that would last 30 years. Biographers often note that the clean-cut era of Hollywood didn't allow for human weakness, forcing stars to bury their struggles under layers of artifice. Behind the closed doors of his trailer, the golden boy was beginning to rely on a liquid courage that would soon become his master. But what nobody knew at the time was how quickly this private habit would start to interfere with his work. It wasn't just about a drink after a long day anymore. It was about survival. As the cameras rolled, he sang of bright golden mornings, while his internal world was growing increasingly dark. This internal struggle was the beginning of a long, lonely road. How did his secret habit start to bleed into his legendary film sets? As Gordon's career reached its peak with films like Carousel, the burden of his double life intensified. He became a master of functioning while under the influence of a severe addiction that few could name at the time. In the 1950s, alcoholism was often treated as a moral failing or a joke rather than the medical crisis we recognize today. This chapter details the specific instances where his secret almost came to light, including missed rehearsals and erratic moods that were quietly hushed up by studio executives. Records from the production of The Best Things in Life Are Free suggest that there were days when Gordon struggled to remember his blocking, a shocking departure from his usual precision. The emotional toll on his family was staggering, as they were forced to participate in the charade to protect his lucrative career. His wife, Sheila, would later recount in her memoirs how they lived in a state of constant high alert, never knowing which version of Gordon would walk through the door. There was a shocking moment during a live performance in Las Vegas where the mask almost slipped entirely. Witnesses backstage recalled him appearing disoriented just moments before his cue, leaving the crew in total silence as they wondered if he could even stand, let alone sing. Yet, like a true professional of the old school, he stepped into the spotlight and performed flawlessly. But that performance came at a cost. The internal curiosity loop of his life was spinning faster. He was becoming a stranger to himself. The tension of keeping this secret was becoming a physical weight that Gordon could no longer carry alone. He was performing for the world, but the audience at home was seeing a man slowly vanish. What happened when the man who had everything finally hit the absolute bottom? By the late 1960s, the golden era of musicals was fading, and so was Gordon's ability to hide his condition. The double life had led to a devastating financial and personal decline that the public was never supposed to see. Hollywood was changing, and the wholesome roles he once commanded were being replaced by grittier, more cynical stories. This chapter covers the heartbreaking moment his marriage finally crumbled under the weight of the lies and the hidden debt that had accumulated over decades. It is reported by entertainment historians that by 1967, Gordon was facing severe tax issues and a dwindling bank account, the result of years of mismanagement fueled by his addiction. The man who had been a symbol of stability was now facing the very real possibility of losing everything. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe, because the hardest part of Gordon's journey is still coming. Just when it seemed like he would disappear into obscurity like so many other fallen stars, a terrifying health crisis forced a final confrontation with the truth. During a stay at a hotel in the early 70s, he suffered a collapse so severe that doctors warned him his liver was on the verge of total failure. The secret was out, if not to the public yet, then certainly to the medical professionals who saw the physical wreckage of 30 years of drinking. It was a devastating realization for a man who had spent his life being the hero. What came next would change the trajectory of his life forever, as he realized that the golden boy persona had finally died. This low point was not the end, but the start of a transformation. Could a man defined by his public image find the courage to be honest? In a move that was practically unheard of for a star of his stature, Gordon MacRae decided to stop running. He entered treatment at the Eisenhower Medical Center and, for the first time in 30 years, spoke the truth about his alcoholism. This chapter focuses on his work with other celebrities facing similar battles and how he used his faded fame to shine a light on recovery. He didn't just get sober, he became an advocate. Reports from the era show that Gordon was one of the first major Hollywood stars to speak openly about being an alcoholic, paving the way for others like Elizabeth Taylor. It was a period of immense emotional healing, though the damage to his body was already done. Maybe you've also had to find the strength to start over after a long period of struggle, realizing that your past doesn't have to define your future. It's never easy to admit you need help when the world expects you to be perfect. He spent his final years touring and talking to groups, often saying that he was a grateful recovering alcoholic. He was no longer the untouchable star. He was a human being with a story of survival. This newfound honesty allowed him to reconnect with his children in a way that had been impossible during his years in the shadows. He finally found a sense of peace that Hollywood could never provide. The man who once sang to thousands now found his greatest joy in the quiet truth of a sober day. How is the singing cowboy remembered today, now that the full story is known? Gordon MacRae passed away in 1986 from complications of cancer and pneumonia, but his story remains one of the most poignant examples of the cost of Hollywood perfection. This final chapter examines how his honesty in his later years actually strengthened his legacy rather than destroying it. Today, when we watch Oklahoma or Carousel, we don't just see a talented performer. We see a man who overcame a 30-year battle. He is remembered not just as a voice, but as a man who had the bravery to admit he was human. The contrast between his sunny screen presence and his dark internal world serves as a reminder of the hidden battles people fight every day. According to film critics, his later transparency added a layer of depth to his earlier work, making his performances seem even more remarkable given what he was enduring behind the scenes. His journey from a double life to a life of truth changed the way many looked at the golden age stars forever. He proved that even the most perfect facade can hide a soul in need of grace. His story isn't just about the fall of an icon, but about the rise of a man who chose truth over the lie of perfection. As the final curtain fell, Gordon MacRae wasn't remembered for his secrets, but for the courage it took to tell them. If you want to see how another Hollywood legend hid their true self, watch our video on Audrey Hepburn's secret life right here. Her story of hidden trauma is just as quietly iconic and equally revealing.